here. The riders now continuing their journey across the top of Spain from Vuelta to Zaragoza, and not starting this morning, in fact, Jerome Blijlevens, who lost his lead in the points classification yesterday, and today he has decided not to start. So the points leader is now, by the way, Fabrizio Guidi.
And a very flat stage again once in store for the riders. 145 kilometres, finishing in the streets of Zaragoza. So I reckon, Phil, because of the winds that normally blow here across the plains of Aragon, we can be sure that the race is going to be pretty quick.
Well, judging by the angle of the echelon there at the front, the winds are ripping right through from the top left-hand corner of the screen. As we join the action here, just 4 kilometres from the finish, and I can tell you there has been a breakaway of some 18 riders trying to dictate the race pattern all day, and a tremendous chase down which has really hurt the Banesto, and they've had to get help from other teams in the chase, but they've got the race more or less all together again now. The man they were hunting was Roberto Heras, who at one stage could have taken the race lead, but as we come down to the last couple of kilometres, Paul, the race now all together.
It certainly is. Rolf Sorensen once again trying to get off the front there, because he's looking for a stage victory before the end of this year's Tour of Spain.
But I don't think he's going to get it now, because the race has come together. It's going to be a day for the sprinters once more. Remember, Blijlevens not here, and he's won stages this year already, but it looks as though it is going to be Smetany, the Vitaligo rider, being challenged by Marcel Wust. Wust has got him right on the line there. The points leader, Guidi, getting third on the far right of the picture there. And overall, no change in the leadership. He's still there in yellow. And Marcel Wust being credited with the fastest ever stage victory in a major tour, 51.137 kilometres per hour. This the 15th stage, 178.7 kilometres. It looks bad on the profile, but didn't turn out to be so, as the field stayed all together, heading away from Zaragoza to Sarria. And the Vitalico boys on the attack again, with the remnants of the Cofidis team, and this is David Plaza Romero, the Spanish rider, because they've been decimated by this race. As they come up towards the finish here, Zinchenko is thinking now of a second stage win, but Cofidis would dearly like to get one, but in fact Plaza leading out, that's always a bad sign. And up to the line, Zinchenko having a magical tour now, getting Vitalico a second win in 3 days. And now as we get back into the start of the final week, 2,650 kilometres covered, and we're in the hills, Sarria to Laguna Negra. It's a little bit of a mountain top finish, and the riders now coursing across the north of Spain, and tomorrow they'll be very happy to know they get onto the flatlands for a little while. But this should be quite a good stage, and it should be a day out for the mountain climbers again. The overall situation unchanged for the last couple of days. Jalabert 22 seconds off the pace, Jimenez at 31 seconds, Escartin at 38.
And once again, it's going to be a difficult sort out for Abraham Alana, because the finish is at 1,900 metres. A tough finish after only a 143 kilometre stage. And as always, Phil, every time there's an opportunity of a break to put the pressure on the yellow jersey, it's the green jerseys of the Kelme squad out there putting as many men to the front as possible.
Well, hats off to them, because they know where they've got to make the moves, and they're doing their best to break the grip of Banesto, although they're not getting a lot of reward here. The Once team, not the threat it used to be in the days of Zulla. He's over to Festina now, and coming up the overall rankings just a little bit too. Zulla 2 minutes 12 seconds off, but he is in 5th place overall.
They really are using a lot of bullets in this last week of the Tour of Spain. Kelme have put a rider in every move that's gone on this afternoon stage, and the man there just sitting up, leaving it up to his teammate now to still try and keep the pressure on. US Postal now starting to get men into the action as well, with Peter Meinhardt, the Danish rider on that squad, slipping across into this group of 4 riders, but certainly he's going to have his work cut out to stay with him once this road tilts up towards the skies.
And it won't be long now, with just 14 kilometres to go, about 8 miles to the finish, as the riders make their way up. But none of these riders again are going to affect the destiny of the Amarillo jersey, so there's no real cause for concern here as the race continues across the north of Spain, moving from right to left. The Spanish flag flying proudly, but may not. Well, this would be a turn-up if he managed to pull this one off for the US Postal. A minute 15 is not a lot, actually, with the climb that's still to come. There's the peloton more or less all together. There's the profile the climbers will start relishing when they get to it. as the riders make their way up the steep slope. So as Paul said, they're almost 2,000 metres at the finish.
And 7 kilometres of climbing, the average 13.5%, so very difficult indeed. Big organisation now coming into the white squad on the front here of the Banesto riders, and Peter Meinhardt is not going to win this stage because he's just come rocketing off the back of that group, which has now been reduced to 3 riders at the front. And you can see once again the Vitalico Seguros team really now starting to ride very well after those 2 wins by Smetnamin, because they've put, in fact, Dominguez into the breakaway group once more.
And right just in front of Dominguez there is the Festina rider, Jose Ramon Uriarte, who is a good climber at 10 kilometres to go, and Dominguez appears to have a bit of a problem here.
Rubiera once again for Kelme on the attack in the lead there, wearing number 108, the lime green jersey of Kelme. Always the jersey we see the most of when it comes to these big mountain stages, but Dominguez is not sure what's going on at the moment, keeps putting his hand up there trying to get his team manager up. With the gap now well inside 1 minute, the team managers will have been removed from that gap to make sure that the race is not falsified. Well, Peter Meinhardt Nielsen from US Postal Service is back in the main field, and a good chance for him to see how the big heads of state of this race are doing, and he'll probably have a quick word with Lance Armstrong there as he goes by to make sure that the American rider, who is really performing well here at the Tour of Spain, has got everything he needs.
Well, there's been an attack here by Dominguez, so the message has come. Ribeiro has had enough. I don't think he's got the answer to this one. So Dominguez might be going clear. I tell you what, the Vitalico boys are having a great tour now. Zinchenko has lit the blue touch paper, and they can't get enough of the victories.
Well, he's a long way down in the overall standings, 49.5 minutes behind the overall leader, 53rd overall. But what's important to him now is to try and get as much publicity as possible for Vitalico, because they haven't had the season they would have expected. I think it's a team we'd see an awful lot more of next year as we look down to the front of the main group there, once again being led by the white jerseys of the men there who are really dominating this year's tour, the Banesto squad, and in the white jersey as King of the Mountain leader, Jose Maria Jimenez, looking like he's going to walk away with that competition.
And the Kelme workers here in our bottom left picture are slipping off the back of the main field now, having been on the attack all day, to no avail as it turns out. But it looks as though the race here now is picking up the Festina rider Uriarte. So now there's only going to be 1 man at 6 kilometres, I think it was, to go.
Well, Uriarte getting a chance there to look at his former teammates. He was one of the big squad of Banesto in the years of Miguel Indurain, and he now has switched over to ride on the Festina squad. He's been caught and will be dispatched pretty smartly, I would think. And Dominguez putting in a great ride here, because this man is not one of the greater climbers on the Vitalico squad. He really is much more at home on the flatter stages, but here he's trying to hold on, in his lead now slipping down to 45 seconds because of the pressure that's being put on by the Banesto squad once again on these very difficult mountainous roads.
He had a great season last year, winning a lot of small stage races. He was quite a star. He's gone over to Vitalico this year, hasn't quite reproduced the effort, but he continues now as the tempo is also, you know, he may not stay away here because the speed of Banesto is bringing this race up.
Well, it's dropped down from 45 seconds to 33 seconds now, so he really is only just holding on to his advantage, and the work being done by this well-drilled squad now surely will bring him back into the fold before the summit. But you can see the queue starting to take up once again behind Abraham Alano. There is Alex Zullo, Richard Virenque, all moving themselves up to start a new challenge. But there, Phil, was the champion of Holland for the first time I've seen him in this year's Tour of Spain, just moving up there. Bogard with his red, white and blue tricolour jersey on his shoulders.
Well, he had a formidable Tour de France, and he's clearly using this race as preparation for the World Championships, because we haven't seen him at all. But the Once riders now launching an attack.
This is Echavarria coming to the front there, looking for a move there. You can see there, bearing a bandage on his right knee, another rider who's had several accidents throughout the Tour of Spain here, but he's not getting too far off the front.
No, but he's caused a lot of consternation amongst the cars, because he's caught the lead cars. You probably heard them blowing their horns. There the motorbikes there now, and he's going up to what looks like a Kelme rider, so this must be a Ribeiro is now being caught. So there's only 1 man left up the road. Echevarria is going straight by Ribeiro.
In fact, that's Mikel Zarabaitia, the rider who for a long time was left on the sidelines by the Banesto squad. He was regarded as a great rider, finished second in the Tour of Spain a couple of years ago, and he's just come back into the sport and switched across to the Once squad. He had a very bad operation on his back, and he's now looking to try and get back to some of the form he had in earlier years.
Well, he was injured in a car accident, I think it was, and he's finally made his way back. But he is a good bike rider, and he has featured in this event before. But right now he's not going to feature, because Banesto have now got just 1 rider left in front. and that is Dominguez.
Well, it's no panic though for them. They've just kept the tempo going clearly. Once the attacks come, they just keep going at the same pace, a pace that is going to be very comfortable for their man Abraham Olano. And this is what's happening further down the field. Uriarte's gone straight off the back of that group.
Well, you take your chance, you pay your price, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. At the moment, they're not really chasing that ride in the top left of our picture. They're just keeping their high tempo. If they catch him, they catch him. If they don't, they don't. And frankly, they don't really care because he's not affecting the overall at all. They've got him well under control now.
There you can see comfortably once again in second position Jose Maria Jimenez riding perfectly at the front of the race. With the man we're looking at now, Dominguez, is just trying to hold on. There's the average gradient there, 13% at the moment, and Dominguez is still doing a very good job holding off the attack of this very smart squad now led by the Banesto riders, which now has been reduced to around about 20 men.
Well, Dominguez last year had a magical season. He won the Tour of Valencia, the Tour of Murcia and the Catalan Week. And by doing all that, of course, he became very valuable property. And that's why Vitalico took him to their new team this year. But he hasn't really had the great season. He's made his bid for glory now. I'm not so sure Paul is going to survive because here comes the Kelme boys now. Well, no, just about. He's had a little bit of a
little dig there at the front by Kelme. Once again, trying to set it up because they're moving up into second place in the Kelme squad. There is Escartin, but Laurent Jalabert, again, still in second place in the overall standings, feels he's got a chance of taking the yellow jersey and possibly the victory here because he is so close to Abraham Olano. But that was, again, just a little dummy attack.
And that's Serrano who's trying to do something, but he seems to be not going very far. And with only 12 seconds hovering, getting a bit shorter. They're right on the back wheel now of the breakaway.
Vironka moving up on the outside now. He's going to have a little dig. He always has a go if he can to try and get away from the leading group of rider. He's so far down in the overall standings now that certainly they're not going to chase him down if he's got the energy to get off the front. But this is what it looks like at the back of the group there, just going off there. The man wearing number 109 was Marcos Serrano. A very difficult day for him in the mountains to try once again to put pressure on Abraham Olano. But it's now the turn of Laurent Jalabert, the champion of France. Blew everybody away in that French championship, and he doesn't have the legs to put Abraham Olano into difficulty this afternoon.
I tell you, Jalabert, even though he doesn't really like the big climbs, he's willing to make it hurt for everybody, and he wants some help here. It's a very narrow stretch of road here. The spectators' cars parked on half of the road as they climb up towards the summit. And in fact, Jalabert looking for some help here. There's only one or two Kelme riders left now. They've sent most of them out of the back door as we get to 3 kilometres from the summit, and continually setting the pace at Banesto as we expect.
Well, it looks as if Jimenez is in trouble there. Philly moved across to the right-hand side of the road and dropped back away from the leaders there. You can see him just at the bottom of the screen. That's the first time we've seen him move out of second or third position on a climb like this, so he may well be paying for all of the efforts he's put in throughout the last 2 weeks of this Tour of Spain. In fact, moving right to the back of that group now, which is being also covered by the Kelme riders and Fernando Escartin.
Well, you can see him on the bottom right of our picture. Now it's the bottom left as we look at the riders from the front here. I think it's Beltran still setting the pace at the front as he continues, and they're still sitting up behind him there, the yellow jersey of Olano.
Well, I can't believe on the top there we've got Dominguez still holding on. 10 seconds is his advantage, and always we've got Beltran on the front here, but it looks as if Jimenez has recovered a bit because he's moved back up again alongside Abraham Olano, with Jalabert looking very good this afternoon, looking for a moment to try and put Olano under pressure. And good to see that Virenka's up there still riding consistently with the best climbers in this year's Tour. Now Jalabert's going again.
Yes, he took one look at Beltran, a quick acceleration. He wants to end this behind the two Kelme riders. Heras and Escartin are just following the line, but you see Olano is paying attention today and he's straight after him.
Well, they're similar kind of riders. Jalabert's not a great mountain climber. He doesn't have the acceleration of the riders like Escartin, and that's the kind of move that Olano can match. But look at this now, Jimenez. I thought he was in trouble, but this is great to be in trouble like this.
God, this guy's enjoying the Tour, isn't he? 3 stage wins already, and now he's taken his chance. He's gone away from his team leader, and this is how you do it when you're a great climber. He's going to ride straight up to Dominguez in one easy movement.
No problem at all. He's come straight out of that group there. He waited to make sure that Olano wasn't in difficulty, and he's leapt right across to the lone leader. In fact, I think he's gone straight by him because it looks as if Dominguez has disappeared completely from the picture. There he's just stopped dead.
Well, you've got to feel sorry for him. That looked good for a long way up the climb. He was holding them off, and then all of a sudden Jimenez goes really good. I don't know how many of you got long memories like I have, but 30 years ago there was a great Spanish climber called Julio Jimenez, and he could climb mountains better than anyone, little bald-headed chap. And now it looks like we've got another Jimenez, a clone, coming up the mountain now. He hasn't got bald head yet, but you never know.
You never know if he gets too many worries with the discussions over his contract, which he certainly is about to renew with Banesto for next year. He may well lose a few hairs, but for the moment he's not worried too much about that. He's worried about getting to the top of this mountain, which is just 2 kilometers away from him, and he really looks fantastic on the bike here. He's had so many stage victories already. The white jersey, if he wins this stage, I feel certainly now will go to him, because nobody can challenge this man in the mountains.
No.
And Abraham Olano looking very happy now just to look across at his new challengers.
Well, you know, we're heading to a situation where Banesto could occupy first and second overall in this race if they continue to keep this sort of pressure up now, because Jimenez is gaining big time. There's no reaction from that field, and as I speak, there it comes, Escartin having a little dig.
Well, that's a good move there, going out to the front by the Kelme squad once again. But you see how Olano doesn't respond to the accelerations of the climbers. He just lets his teammates take the pace up nice and steady. And again, it's the turn of Beltran to come to the front here and keep the pressure on nice and comfortably, so that Olano can stay there and not have to respond to these constant accelerations.
Olano is a survivor in the mountains. He's made that pretty plain, but what a talent he really is too. If he can survive at this sort of quality and allow just 1 or 2 riders to slip away. And now he's going to be pretty content too that Jimenez is moving clear to what will be his 4th victory, unless Escartin can get up to him. There's Armstrong as well, putting in another memorable performance today on this climb.
Well, Armstrong limiting his losses on all of these climbs here. He's not managed to stay in the group of Abraham Olano, but he's not very far off the back of them. He's got 2 riders from Vitaligo Seguros to help him out there, and he really is riding a superb Tour of Spain. I don't think we can say enough about the performance of Lance Armstrong here, Phil, and all of the riders every evening are talking about how well Lance Armstrong is riding after the comeback from 2 years ago when he was diagnosed with testicular cancer. They believe that this is the most magnificent comeback that they have seen, but they also believe that this Tour of Spain has been the revelation of this man now, Jose Maria Jimenez, who's looking for the last kilometre banner.
And the Spanish crowd love him. In fact, it looks like the Kelme boy has gone back in the field. It was Heras who put in the move there, because Escartin's on the other side of the road, but he's back in the pack.
Well, Jimenez at the front there on his own now, looking for another stage victory to put into his back pocket, and certainly he's got a great advantage. 33 seconds once again he's opened up on the chasers. His own teammate Abraham Olano, and the Spanish flags are all out this afternoon, and certainly still 1 or 2 Basque flags out there as well, because we're still very much in the heartland of the Basque country.
Well, competitively wise, we've had a great Giro d'Italia, a great Tour de France, and there's no doubt now we're being treated to a great Vuelta as well. The battles, and everybody believes they've got a chance. We've witnessed over the days attack and counter-attack, and in the mountains this man on each occasion has popped out as the top rider of the day, and now he's continuing to climb. A massive crowd here. They're all loving it now to see a Spanish rider in the thick of the action, and there's the race leader as well.
Very tough climb. They've been climbing now for 6 kilometres at an average of 13%. Very difficult indeed. But the guy on the top left-hand side, Jose Maria Jimenez, is looking so comfortable. He gets out of the saddle almost with ease to climb up these mountains. And in the second picture to the left, to the right-hand side there, you can see Beltran is doing the ideal job for Abraham Olano, keeping the pace high enough to make sure that nobody launches a surprise attack. There's 1 kilometre to go for the leader.
So the super domestique, Beltran, just looking after his man back there and being totally unselfish in the pacemaking, as he has done all the way up this mountain indeed. And there he is, and confident in the knowledge that a nice little tempo here, stop the attacks while Jimenez takes the day. They can't do a thing wrong at the moment, the Banesto boys.
Richard Virenque having a pretty good day too, moving himself up into 2nd place there. Jalabert again looking at the face of Abraham Olano. You know, he's not very far down in the overall standings, and probably feels that if he can put him into difficulty on a climb like this, he can pull himself a bit closer. In fact, he's moving forward again.
Well, hats off to Jalabert. Never stops trying, and it always seems to be struggling on the mountain climbs. He's under the kilometre to go.
No response. It comes from Escartin, who's going across there. Then the new man to move, Richard Virenque. But look at that. Olano can see the difficulty. He's not going to let people grapple a few more seconds away from him on stages like this. There's about 10 bike lengths difference between Laurent Jalabert, Escartin and Abraham Olano, who again has sat down, deciding not to respond to that acceleration. He's going to ride the last kilometre at his own pace.
And a massive crowd enjoying it now as they come up towards the top of the climb. They're on the flat roads tomorrow, but they're not thinking about that right now. Maybe Olano is, though, because now he's coming out of the mountains feeling in pretty good condition. Or perhaps not quite feeling in pretty good condition, but certainly in a good, strong position.
Well, for him, the mountain's a question of survival. He puts the hammer down in the time trials and survives in the mountains. But this man, his own teammate, is the big mountain climber, and he's coming right up towards the line.
So win number 4 for Jimenez as his great tour continues. He can't believe this. There he goes. He's getting used to that now. The leader and winner of the King of the Mountains, I think. He's such a good lead in that competition. He is now home. The clock has started. And there could be a little improvement in the general classification for Jimenez if he keeps this up to date. Jalabert at last has slipped away. He's got Escartine with him. He should manage to handle Escartine in the sprint. And in fact, Escartine not offering any resistance to go over the line, about 35 seconds down. And that looks like Alex Zula coming in with his Festina teammate Virenque just behind him. And Beltran being allowed to stay on the front to bring home his team leader yet again. And so in 7th place, Abraham Olano, and almost a minute down. So you lose a little bit of ground to Jimenez and not concede too much to Escartine, his other rival. But Jimenez now will have climbed a little bit overall. And very shortly, I think we're going to see 1-2 for Benesto if Jimenez can keep up this sort of pressure. But it was a great day in the mountains there. And it's going to be a long wait too, Paul, for the rest of the riders. Is this Lance Armstrong? Yes, he is. He just lost a bit of ground on the closing kilometres of the climb, but he's not lost much time at all at 1:23. So well done, Lance. The mountains here again offering us another epic battle. And now all they've got to worry about is the flatlands tomorrow. Well, there he is. He's pulled on his Benesto team jersey. He's got 4 stage wins to his credit now. And I haven't seen the big traditional trophy yet, but I'm sure it'll come out short. Oh, there it is. And these chaps must need a special bus, I think, to take them all home. But Jose Maria Jimenez, the winner today in 3.5 hours. Jalabert, Escartine, Zula and Virenque. So Festina at last making some impression on this tour, although it's not really the sort of impression they'd like to make. And there is the overall. Jimenez is now 3rd. And now we have just 6 days to go. This a nice flat stage across the plains today between Burgos and Leon. And by the way, Beltran is now up to 8th place, just over 2 minutes down, despite his unselfish help he's giving Olano.
2 kilometres to go on the whole field all together, and it's going to be another day for the sprinters to try and get glory in this year's Tour of Spain, because it hasn't been a fast stage, but it has been too fast for this guy going right out the back now.
Well, in fact, for a while, they're almost stopped still. It was been one of the slowest stages of the Tour, but here they come. And Marcel Worsted heading them home, win number 2. He got the fastest stage. I think he's also won the slowest stage there. But even so, a win, as Marcel will tell you, is a win. That is 8th ever stage win in a Vuelta. He's now had a great record in this event, and he always sends me an email after he's won just to tell me how he did it. Well, we can see this time for ourselves. He's all smiles. So Marcel Wust getting the victory there, just getting in ahead of Edo of Kelme. Overall, no change whatsoever. And it really should be the case too as we move on to stage 18 at 230 kilometres. We're now plunging due south from Leon down to Salamanca, leaving the north behind us, and Madrid is getting close. No real challenge at all on this stage, and it's coming around to the sprinters again here, Paul.
It certainly is. The early part of the race was dominated by a big breakaway, but as they got closer to the finish, the main speed came again from the TVM squad and Sergei Uchikov trying to get off the front there to get himself a lone victory. But nobody today wanted the lone leaders to survive, and the big pressure in the main field brought it all back together.
And as they're heading in towards the finish, 7 kilometres to go. Now there's the field wrapping it all up, and hopefully, for the sprinters at least, they'll get it back in. Uchikov is a master of the lone escape. He's done it before. In fact, he won a stage of the Tour de France at the expense of Lance Armstrong once. Now, as they continue to go under the banners down towards the finish, and again, there'll be no change overall in this race as they start to think about the sprinters taking their day, but there's always those willing to try and break them up, and the attacks at the front still coming.
Still coming, but every time it gets off the front, they come back together. Michael Bogaard, the champion here of Holland, sitting on the back there, very happy just to ride the last couple of days of this year's Tour of Spain for training, because he's thinking further down the line to the World Championships in Valkenburg in a couple of weeks' time.
Yes, he really has decided to use this race as a training race. There he is, number 61. We've never seen him at all take part in the event. Not what the organisers like to see, by the way, either. 2 kilometres to go now, and still riders willing to try and spoil the sprinters' day out.
Ludo Dirksen from the Lotto squad trying to get off the front there, hoping that he too can fox the sprinters on the run into this town, but his advantage very slim indeed, and the big teams on the front once again keeping the pressure very high.
But the field are coming at them, and the cat and mouse is not going to help them at all here. They're going to be swept up almost in sight of the line, and swept up they are now. Peter van Petegem on the right is leading it out here now, but on the line it looked to me as though it was Greedy who got it.
It was very close indeed. I don't know where he came from because it looked so close. It looked as if it was all sorted out by Van Petegem, but you know, I do believe the victory there went to Greedy.
And that is confirmed. Greedy was the stage winner, the points leader. Well, the riders are going to find themselves back to the mountains today, 4 days from the finish and 3,200 kilometres covered. This 170 kilometre stage taking them from Avia to Segovia. And really, the one big climb they're going to worry about, Paul, is going to be the climb of the Navacerrada.
Yeah, but certainly not a major difficult climb for Abraham Olano, because the slopes of that climb really are fairly even, so he'll be able to get his big power going and roll the gears over there. But you can still see, again, in this part of Spain, it's always undulating, never really flat as they make the way across towards Segovia, the area that Pedro Delgado hails from, and that certainly will be an area where, once we get a little bit closer to Madrid, our man Abraham Olano will certainly feel a lot more confident with a time trial still to come.
Right, so the high spot of the day, 1,860 metres, and the man has been on the attack today in really determined mood here as we start that climb of the Navacerrada, and that is Roberto Heras. He's the number 2 on the Kelme team now. He was the number 1 in the first week. He was right up there as high as second place, but he's still very much a man to watch.
And you can see again on the slopes of this climb, really the Banesto boys feeling very much at home now, getting much closer towards the finish, and Heras's advantage just 11 seconds over the group. Banesto not too worried about chasing him down too rapidly, just keeping a nice steady tempo there to make sure they don't put Abraham Olano into too much difficulty. And sitting comfortably in the group there in the blue jersey of US Postal Service was Lance Armstrong.
But he's still 2:35 down overall, so 11 seconds isn't going to alter things too much. And Escartin also up near the front, but in fact the Banesto boys are just going to keep nice steady tempo. This is more or less a main road climb here, good road surfaces, and not the sort of climb that should shake out Olano. He's not going to struggle like he has done in the Pyrenees, and I don't think this man either will find the roads much suitable to his climbing style either.
But he's really moved up the overall standings over the last couple of days, because he's always managed to grapple back a few more seconds, and he will, I think, get very close to Abraham Olano over the last couple of stages where the attack's coming. That looked like Escartin sliding across there, but immediately countered by Jalabert and Olano.
Yes, and Zulla not far away either, lying 5th overall. Alex Zulla there, number 1. So he's staying in touch in 2-1-4 there. Is Claveros having a great tour as well. And they all take a close order again at the front, but they're very alert. They're waiting for Escartin to make his move. He's caused a reaction here which has brought them right up to his teammate as well. I don't know what Heras is thinking about when he looks over his shoulder and sees his teammate and his team captain coming up. Probably nothing, but anyway, they're all back together.
Well, that's a big surprise. In fact, Escartin thought he had the acceleration to get out of that group and get up to his own teammate there. And the man at the back going very quickly backwards, Fabrice Gougeot. We've seen a lot of him over the last few days from the Casino squad, but they certainly haven't had a great tour of Spain when you compare it to the rest of the season they've had throughout Europe.
He's the king of the mountains now, as everybody's gone back in the pack, and this group has thinned out on the climb to just the usual select few. Waiting to catch a glimpse of Lance Armstrong in this group. I haven't done so yet, but he's having a great tour. Serpellini is also up here now.
There's Armstrong just at the back there behind Alex Zulla. You can see
there he is.
201 there on his jersey, riding comfortably in the slipstream of Abraham Olano, but again moving to the front of the group. Fernando Escartin deciding to try and put a bit more pressure on one sole representative of the Avianca Telecom team from Colombia there, wearing number 11, Castelblanco.
Well, the big test will be the last day in the mountains tomorrow, then the final time trial. So Alex Zulla having a little dig here now, gritting his teeth and giving it just about everything he has. And although he's making it look good, the field are holding him in his sights, I think.
Well, Alex Zülle now 5th overall, 2 minutes 12 behind, wants to try and get himself a little bit closer to Abraham Olano if he's going to make it 3 Tour of Spain victories in a row. But look at that, the work immediately taken up by the leader of the King of the Mountains, Jose Maria Jimenez. No panic at all. He hasn't tried to jump across this time, Phil. So there must have been a discussion between Abraham Olano and Jimenez, because Jimenez now just setting a good pace to try and pull back Zülle sensibly.
Well, Zülle heading off towards the top of the climb, but the tempo has been visibly lifted here, even so. But it's more a tempo rather than a rip snorter to try and reach Zülle immediately. And Jimenez is the man setting the pace. Escartine might be the rider to profit here. As we get higher up the road, you can see the cloud line. It's a mist line, and we might well get into that shortly.
But once you get over the top there, it plunges right down to the finish line in Segovia, and that will be a big advantage for a man who is a good descender. You can see on the front, Maria Jimenez is doing a very good job there, but it looks as if Abraham Olano's in difficulty. He's lost the wheels there.
But he's diving all over the place. It's no good choosing Jalabert, who seems to be cruising backwards as well. Jalabert not happy. Well, it doesn't look a steep climb on the cameras. Over the top of the summit here, Zülle has passed, and they really scrabbled. And I think the top didn't come soon enough for these riders. They now should get back together again.
Well, I tell you what, Abraham Olano was put into difficulty there. Look at that acceleration from Jose Maria Jimenez, and in fact it's put Laurent Jalabert into difficulty because he's gone off the back of the group over the summit.
He's a lot of work to do on that descent now, but here comes the big man. 4-stage wins, and he's lassoed Alex Zülle, and he is now going to accompany him down the mountain.
Well, Zülle looking for an occasion to try and get himself a few more seconds back towards the lead of Abraham Olano. This coming back now is Daniel Clavero, another Vitalico rider in that group. Surprisingly enough, in the mountains, Phil, was Zinchenko. I caught a sign of him earlier on, and he's still riding a great Tour of Spain this year. Has managed to pull himself into a leading group on the mountain stages now.
Well, he's just off our leaderboard in 6th place, Clavero. And here's our little moto sequence for you as each group descends at its own speed, 88 kilometers an hour and going up.
Good move there by Alex Zülle was doing that 88, and the group here of Abraham Olano not going quite as quickly there, so he'll be losing a bit of time on the 2 leaders there. But once again, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition has managed to get across to the very important moves. He's having such a fantastic final week to the Tour of Spain here. It's going to be difficult to see what he does tomorrow on the big mountain stage, because Abraham Olano will be put to the test, I'm sure, once again.
Well, he's got to be, and I think if he survives tomorrow in yellow, then he's going to look to win this race by the time we get down to the finish in Madrid. But he's got to survive well tomorrow, and there's always at one stage like that, isn't there, in every stage race, where the leader's going to worry, and he's not going to predict the result of that race until he's past that stage. Tomorrow will be D-Day for Olano, I'm sure of that.
It certainly will, because then after that, just one time trial to go, his own land where he can excel perfectly well. But Alex Zülle there has been pulled back into the fold on that descent there by Abraham Olano, who himself is a very good descender.
Well, a cheeky move for Alex, now back in the race, and coming nicely onto the back of the field there too was Zinchenko. Paul, he's having a great tour now.
It's unbelievable. The guy's got 2-stage victories under his belt, and now he's pulling himself into these select lead groups over the mountain passes. So obviously Vitalico coming into form towards the end of the Tour of Spain. Heras now trying to get off the front, and on the front of that group there, the pace being set once again by the last Banesto man in the group. That's Jose Maria Jimenez.
Well, he's starting to go away here. He's chosen a strange part of the course to launch an attack, and Jalabert is coming back, but he looks as though he was stretching his leg there. We just caught him. He may be cramping up a little bit. Anyway, Heras has gone clear.
Heras, good move by him. Major revelation in the Tour of Spain last year. 5th overall with a stage victory under his belt as well. Now he's decided to go out. He attacked earlier on the slopes of the climb and was pulled back by his own teammate. Now once again, they must be trying to lay down some sort of plan to put Abraham Olano into difficulty. But this is the terrain where Olano is much more comfortable on these descents. He's a little heavier than most of his Spanish adversaries, so he can actually use that weight to his advantage on the descent. And you can see this guy here certainly not super comfortable. Virenque now trying to get across.
Well, Richard Virenque, only a shadow of what he normally is in the mountains. He's now trying to make some amends here as he slowly but surely comes back to form. He won't be allowed to ride the World Championships. The UCI has put a block on all of those riders who are under investigation for suspected doping, and so he's out of the world. So this really is going to be his last big race of the year.
Certainly will. In fact, the defending champion Laurent Brochard also excluded from taking part in that World Championships with Alex Zuller and Laurent Dufaux from Switzerland. So a strange World Championships to have the defending champion not on the starting line. But Heras here looking for an advantage on this group. He has now around about 10 seconds over Richard Virenque, who's again just 10 seconds in front of the chasing group of Abraham Olano. You can see always being led there by Jose Maria Jimenez.
And there we have it all for you in one shot, only briefly as it was. But now, can Kelme get the stage win they have so richly deserved in this Tour this year? They've been close, they've been the people to take the race to the Banesto at every opportunity. Now Virenque trying to get up here to Heras.
Trying very hard there, but look at this, another move coming from Escartin. Olano panicking away, getting across the gap there, doesn't want the Spanish rider to get any more time on him. He realises now he's got to keep him as close as possible, and that acceleration has brought Richard Virenque back into the fold. Again, the attack coming from the Vitalico Seguros riders. That looked very much to me like it was Dominguez who's gone across there.
Well, he's gone. There was an attack put in briefly by Castelblanco of the Avianca team, but I think he must have been caught back. But right now, we've got this rider out on the counter move.
In fact, that looked like it was Zinchenko.
It looked like the long legs of Zinchenko, I must confess, but it didn't when he came head on to the camera. Anyway, we'll find out very shortly. But right now, this rider is trying to salvage a stage victory here for Kelme and not do himself too bad at all as far as the overall goes. He's still off the pace. That's why Banesto are being forced to ride and ride hard now, because the man that they are chasing, and there he is, Zinchenko. So he's come back because of the chase here now. Beltran, not on the form he was of the last few days, is having difficulty in this front group. In fact, I'm not even sure he's here now.
Well, a couple more Banesto guys coming to the front there. The advantage with 10 kilometres remaining of the man we're looking at right now is just 20 seconds, and they're all in the same straightaway there, and you can see him just going under the banner there with the main group being reinforced, I reckon, from the rear by one or two Banesto riders who've recovered on the descent.
Right, the team are getting themselves together now, and they're trying desperately to pull back. Roberto Heras always seems to do well in Vuelta. There he is, 48 seconds, so he's at the moment pulling back almost a minute of his deficit. That will ensure a top 6 position overall by the end of the day. And if he does get into the overall, then I think it will be at the expense of people like Alex Zuller, because they are tickling the top 6. Alex in 5th at the moment.
Certainly a good move by him. It was 30 seconds. Now it's up to 45 seconds, and he's flying through the streets now. But behind, the Banesto boys are starting to put the hammer down. Beltran has recovered and come back into this group, and he's coming to the front right now to try and keep the pace exceptionally high to see if they can pull back the Kelme rider Heras, who's in the lead. But he is looking for a stage victory for Kelme this afternoon. A little cobbled section just on the outskirts of town now, and shortly he'll be getting into the streets of Segovia, and he'll be looking for the stage victory. But he's got still a long ride to go on his own, because the group behind Phil, you can see the big long line there showing that they're travelling very fast indeed.
Well, this is not an easy escape at all for this man, and not the sort of stage you'd expect him to win either, because the terrain has gone against him now. But win I think he is going to. It's just 2 kilometres from the finish. It's steadily downhill at the moment. I don't think they can possibly close that gap now.
They're going to try if they can, but he's not losing any of his energy. Every time there's a slight incline, he gets out of the saddle, because that is his terrain. That's where he can, in fact, increase his power over the rest of the field there. Still trying to keep his advantage, but it's only a slight one. It's down now to 35 seconds, and this group, Phil, seems to me to have swelled quite a bit, because we've got the Vitalico guys coming to the front. That's Clavero on the front for Vitalico, trying to pull back the Kelme rider now, because he reckons if it does come back together, Zinchenko is the fastest man in that group behind.
I think you're right, but in fact this guy, I think he's going to hold it off, and he's only ever won 2 races in his life. He turned pro 4 years ago, and he's about to win his third race in his second stage in the Vuelta rather. He won a stage last year on his way to finishing 5th overall, and the crowd are going to cheer him all of the way now. This is a lovely feeling. They're not going to chase him down. He is a dangerous rider in this race. He's going to lift himself up the overall classification too. So a stage win in the back for Kelme, and there won't be a dry eye in the house, because they richly deserve that victory. And as they come up to the line, can they make it first and second here? Because I think they can. Escartin and Casablanco. Escartin's Gutierrez, in fact, who gets the third. Oh, he hasn't got it. Yes, he has. Escartin gets second. Jalabert over there in fourth place. And the pack drifting over the line. And so there won't be any serious changes overall, but there will indeed be a little acceleration up the classification for Roberto Heras. There he is. Only a slight little man. He's a good climber. And I think, as I said earlier, a stage that he was not really expected to win, but he hit them at the right time. They just brought back all the attacks and he went on a bit of false flat. And as always, if somebody makes a little bit of hesitation, don't chase it immediately. It's too late. The escape has gone and the victory has gone his way today for the third time only in a career of 4 seasons. Looking down on the beautiful old town here of Segovia, as the riders now have to think of the last big mountain stage of this tour. There's the situation in the King of the Mountains. It's a pretty clear lead for Jimenez over Jalabert. Escartin there in third place. And in the other classification, that's the one that matters. Heras now up in 5th spot. That's what's important. At least it certainly is for Heras, because now we're back on to the Alto de Navacerrada, and in fact we go up it the opposite way to the way the riders have just come down it, and this is much tougher. And in fact, look at the weather conditions here. This is a ride of 206 kilometers, and I'm not too sure how long we can keep bringing you pictures today, because conditions will get worse as the riders get higher.
The weather really glacial, 4 degrees Celsius over the top of some of these climbs today, Phil, and riders are going to have a very hard time. Out on the attack, though, Richard Virenque has been joined by David Leonas Berrutia, a man always aggressive and always looking for the moves, and he is out today trying to protect his position as one of the top riders on Once. But the man keeping himself well covered up against the elements is Abraham Olano with his thermal rain jacket over the top there, and Jimenez adopting a very interesting hat.
I must say, Jimenez looks as though he's on a training ride here as he just rides along in his little bobby hat there. These are the 2 breakaways as we're on the climb, and the conditions, well, how they've changed in 24 hours. It's unbelievable here, and all this happening, don't forget, on the eve of the final time trial and the last weekend of this race.
Well, you don't expect to see this with a couple of days left to go on the road into Madrid, and the mountain tops here are very difficult indeed, because there's a mist that's come down and the helicopter's having a hard time getting up there to bring the pictures back to us. But in fact, that breakaway group of Leonas Berrutia and Virenque has been joined by a couple of other riders who've just come across there from the Vitalio Seguros team, who really are riding an excellent last week of the Tour of Spain here this year. But Virenque, he certainly has been out on the attack. These 2 guys have been leading the race for the last 60 kilometers.
Well, we'll see if we can pick them up. This looks like it might well be Blanco that may have got across. Just can't quite get a glimpse of his number. Camazin has certainly come and tacked on to the back here. There's Beltran, so if Beltran is here, it looks as though the others will be coming on as well, because Beltran will not be far away from his yellow jersey, Abraham Olano.
Well, Leonas Berrutia now having a very difficult time. Now this group has been joined by some reinforcements. He's been out on the front working very hard indeed. You can see Beltran has definitely joined Virenque, and on the front there, the Kelme boys again in the affairs, trying to make this a very difficult day for Abraham Olano. It's the last chance they've got to put him into serious difficulty.
Well, Ribera here setting the pace. Well, he's not setting the pace now. It looks as though as we go forward here that this race is split up completely as we've got higher and higher, and the conditions are getting wetter and wetter. These are the 2 leaders. No, they're not. This is Camazin trying to go clear here, and the rider with him is Santiago Blanco. As now Zulla puts in an attack from the group. There's only a few seconds blanketing all of these leading riders, and Zulla, who has often done some great performances in adverse weather conditions, he just has to stay upright on his bike to make them look really good.
Well, a big move there, followed by Escartin, and jumping across the white jersey on the shoulders of the climber here, Jimenez. He's gone up there again, covering the moves for his teammate Abraham Olano, and the pressure is being put on Olano, and the conditions out there, Phil, are absolutely atrocious. This is the second group on the road, Jimenez, Escartin and Alex Zulla, and Abraham Olano once again hasn't been able to respond to the attacks from the climbers, but at least he's got Beltran with him. In fact, Beltran's up the road, so he's only got 1 teammate left here to help.
1 teammate left behind to look after him. Things are not looking too good at the moment for the Amarillo jersey. There's the 2 group timings, 1 minute and 4, and then 21 seconds behind is the group Olano. The leaders on the left of our picture, the chasers on the right. Let's go back up and have a look at the pace setters here now. Kamezin's had a great tour here. He's showing very good form. And the gaps are differing very slightly. Beltran tagged on to the back here, which I'm surprised he's left his teammate because he's such a loyal guy. But maybe Alano's told him to go and get up and tag on to that chase group.
Well, it's not looking too good now because, in fact, Richard Virenque, who was in the middle, has been joined by the group of Alex Zuller. So this is looking rather dangerous now for Abraham Olano. Virenque finding a little bit more energy to try and spur along Alex Zuller on his attack of Abraham Olano's lead. And Abraham Olano looking very isolated now. In this group with him is still Laurent Jalabert and also Lance Armstrong. But there's still some very tough climbs to come.
And there's still the boys that he really wants alongside him up front here. And the gaps are beginning to look serious. In fairness, of course, Olano's been in this situation a number of times this year and has got himself out of it and in good shape. But he can also rest easy, I suppose, in the knowledge that his teammate Jimenez is up trying to dictate affairs. There were the two leaders, and conditions are still a bit grim, but these guys are used to racing at least one big stage race one day in these conditions.
It looked very much to me there as if the Santiago Blanco group and Kamenzin have just been joined by Alex Zuller, so that is going to make it very difficult indeed, and they've stretched out their lead to 1 minute and 4 seconds now over the group of Abraham Olano. This is the group with Virenque, Zuller and Escartin, so they are riding magnificently, and Olano in serious problems.
And Escartin knows what he's got here as he drives this race on. He's got his teammate Ribeiro to give him a hand, tagged onto the back, the man in white, Jimenez, and won't help any of this. There's the breakdown. Uriarte is also in here. Kamezin and Bogart, believe it or not.
Amazing. The guy has really ridden into the Tour of Spain in the last few days. I don't know where he's been all day, but all of a sudden he pops up and the champion of Holland is in the leading group on the very last tough mountain stage, and Kamenzin is really powering on because Bogart can hardly get by him there.
Well, the guys will be asking who he is, I think, because they haven't seen him for the best part of 3 weeks, but quite clearly he is training for the World Championships, and now he's decided he's going to have a little test to see how his form is coming along, and he's chosen this tough day in the mountains. Well, Escartin, this is his big move now. Not only does he want to get into a breakaway, he wants to gain time over Olano, and more time than he might concede tomorrow in the last time trial.
Well, Virenque's popped. He's come straight out to the back of that group with Alex Zuller now, and that's the end of the day for him. A very long day in the saddle, more than 100 kilometers on the attack, and just in the back of that long echelon line there you can see the US Postal jersey on the shoulders of Lance Armstrong, riding very well in these adverse conditions. But again, Banesto have recovered, Phil, because there are 3 Banesto riders there moved up to that group of Abraham Olano. They won't give up. They realise this is the last chance, but the leading group now almost 1 minute ahead of Olano still.
Absolutely, and Jimenez having a free ride there. There's Laurent Brochard, the world champion, the rainbow jersey not being very prominent in this race at all. Now sitting at the back of the Olano group, which is under full flight by the Banesto boys, and Lance Armstrong being carried along as well and being taken slowly but surely at the moment up towards this leading group containing Alex Zuller among others, and Escartin. Zuller and Escartin, the riders with the most to gain here, are going to race now until the others work their way up, if indeed they do. But it looks as though the Amarillo jersey is now saying it's time to get down to business.
It certainly is what you have to do once you get to conditions like this. Even if it is very cold out there, you do have to make sure you get those waterproof jackets off, because the big problem when you come to the climbs is you can overheat in conditions like this, despite the fact that it's only 4 degrees Celsius over the top of the climbs, and Olano now getting down to some serious work.
Well, Jose Vicente Garcia was on his own at one stage, isolated with injury, with Olano, but now he's got himself some help, although he still seems to be the strong teammate of the Banesto survivors here.
Well, the gap still hovering around about the 45-second mark. Sitting on the back of the group getting some respite here is Michael Bogart, the champion of Holland. And a man moving to the front of the group of Abraham Olano there is a man you know very well, Phil, the rider Salvatore Commesso from the Seiko Cannondale squad.
Well, I've always thought of him as a young sprinter, but he's coming out in his first year as a pro as to be a real good all-round bike rider. And Seiko must have recognised that fact in his last year as an amateur. He was the European young under-23 champion last year, now in his first full season as a top pro. Anyway, he's had a good ride. He rode well in races like Paris-Roubaix this year as well. But there's the difference now, and you know, he saved the day here. A little bit of service required at the back of the bunch for the Postal boys.
It's Lance Armstrong again trying to call up the team management. Johnny Welch driving the team car here at the moment for Armstrong, and you can see there it's still very close indeed, and they've not given up at all. The team of Abraham Olano, they're pulling this back together.
Well, we've still got the long slug up towards the finishing line here. I don't know whether Michael Bogart will relish the thought of that. Kamazin is not a bad climber. He's sitting at the back. And Escartine been working very hard to get something out of this. But now it's time to sit up and take some food, because I think they're all coming back together. And that's what they're all beginning to do.
Everybody in this group now feel getting stripped off and ready for action, because it's going to be a very difficult final climb up to the finish. This, in fact, will be the third time they've been up the Alto de Nevacerrada this afternoon, because they did come up it earlier on in the afternoon, but from a different side. This side is the side that they climbed up this morning, so they'll know what is in store for them, and it is very cold and rainy up at the top here.
And we have to tell you, we're not sure what we'll see in the way of pictures either, because they're going to get into that cloud line. And let's hope, if there is a showdown, and it seems to me as though these riders are psyching themselves up for one, let's hope we can see it as we get up towards the summit. 15 kilometres to go.
15 kilometres to go in the final mountain stage of this year's Tour of Spain. Oscar Kamenzin on the back there, just trying to get a little bit of rest before the serious mountain climbing starts. But Alex Zuller on the front will not lay down arms. Even though the gap is still hovering at 15 to 20 seconds, he's decided he's really going to keep the pressure on. It's a do-or-die effort for him today to try and make this his third Tour of Spain win in a row. He won last year and the year before that, and he would dearly love to win this year, because it would certainly save the season for him.
Well, he's coming better and better, although he lost his 5th place overall to Heras after Heras got that stage win, but he's still obviously going pretty well. And the riders now generally are beginning to regroup here now. Olano will breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief, but of course he knows that the big climb is still ahead.
It'll only be a brief sigh of relief, and I think the brief sigh of relief will be to take in as much oxygen as possible, because the final kilometres of this climb are going to be very difficult for these riders, especially in the conditions that they've had to race in today. Alex Zuller not giving up at all. He's left the rest of the group, but he's still got that limpet right on his back wheel. Jose Maria Jimenez is not letting Alex Zuller go anywhere.
Well, this has really been a great tour for Jimenez. He's proved to everybody, and he's become a darling of the Spanish public too. They call him El Chava, and they love him, and he's a little bit of a hero over these past 3 weeks. His image has improved 110%, and he's going to run out the king of the mountains. And you know, he's still up here in the league group with the climb ahead of him. He's not very far off the Amarillo jersey either.
It's a magnificent ride by him. Alex Zuller too, I have to say, take your hat off to him, because he hasn't given up at all as he goes under the banner indicating 10 kilometres left to go to the finish. He is still riding it out there, and still only around about 12 seconds in front of this group with the Amarillo jersey on the shoulders of Abraham Olano. And the group over the last few kilometres certainly has swelled a little bit, because the riders originally on the attack have been caught, and El Shaba is saying, come on boys, get up here, because Alex Zuller is starting to crack.
And the weather, I know lots to spray off the back wheel of our camera motorbike, but believe me, it is absolutely pouring down now. And these riders are soaked, and the rain is cold. Already our pictures are getting a bit shaky here, and we don't know how long they're going to hold these. The helicopter not flying higher up the mountain.
Well, there's Comesso, first chance to get a good view of him, a man who earlier this year won the Giro del Capo in South Africa. A very good rider indeed, and certainly turning out to be a prominent climber. A short, stocky rider, much more suited to the sprinting that he usually is renowned for, but here converting himself into a very good climber, and a man I'm sure we'll see a lot more of in stage races in the future.
So he continues now to set the pace. Nothing to gain, only a few places overall. He's not a challenger this time around. This man has shown he's begun to enjoy this race. 2 stage wins, Paul, and it looks as though he's going again. Zinchenko.
He's going off the front again on a mountain climb. He's the kind of guy who normally is renowned, in fact, Comesso going straight out the back there, but Zinchenko is normally renowned as a rider on the flat. He put an attack in there, but they've pulled him back. That was a seriously good move by him, and you can see again, Abraham Olano is in difficulty on the slopes of this climb, because he's been left behind by all of the other adversaries.
I think you're right. I think he's been dropped by everybody that matters now, and this is the very select little group as they're heading up towards the top of the climb. There's Olano in trouble. Serrano is behind him, I think it was. But that really doesn't matter too much now. Here we have the top 2 Kelme. Lance Armstrong is nudged into the back there on the wheel of Jimenez, and this was the day when we thought a lot of riders would crack. Armstrong is getting better and better and better.
Armstrong's in that leading group of 5 riders with Escartine, and further down the slope you can see Abraham Olano is in difficulty. Escartine now is looking for the finish line, and he's started to accelerate, and Armstrong has got the legs to go with him.
And we've managed to keep our pictures, which is great now, because Escartin is going, Zinchenko is also going. This man is heading up now on the most difficult stage of the Tour, which is what some of the riders are saying in these conditions for a possible third stage win here now. And so the Russian has gone clear, and he's not going to get caught way in the distance. Well, there he is. You'll have to take my word for it. He's won the stage in 5.5 hours, and in second place there was Heras, and that's a great result for him. Jimenez was third, and Armstrong, I think, crossed the line in 5th place. They are in, the clock has started, and these riders with the Amarillo jersey are still to finish.
Well, you know, Abraham Alana has really suffered in these conditions today. One of the riders in the main field who is not able to ride well in bad conditions like this. He really kind of tetanizes his muscles. The cold gets in there and stops them responding. He can now see the barrier at the top there, and shortly he'll be looking for the left-hand turn into the finish line, and he will be happy about that, because today he's losing an awful lot of time to his own teammate, Jose Maria Jimenez.
He's lost his Amarillo jersey. He was just over 30 seconds ahead at the start. That's all gone now, as in the murk the riders continue to cross the line. And how about that? Jimenez has got his hands again on the Amarillo jersey, this time taking it away from his Benesto teammate. And you know, there can be no argument in the team, because there's been no case of blackmail or tricking one another into the lead. There's the confirmation. Zinchenko the winner today, Heras getting a great second place, Jimenez with that third place giving him the race lead, Armstrong delighting everybody there with 5th. And there's confirmation of that now. Jimenez leading Escartin by 6 seconds. Alano is down to 3rd. Heras is up to 4th. And so, after the clouds of the summits of the mountains, it's back down to the flatlands now. 200 kilometres remaining in this tour, and we've gone to Fuenlabrada for the 39-kilometre time trial. And this should be where we finally sort out the overall classification of the Vuelta. This man has simply had a wonderful tour. He came here just to finish, and you know, he has a real chance of a top 5 finish now.
Well, I tell you what, Phil, I think he's got a chance of a place on the podium as well, because if he can produce the kind of time trial that he used to win the Tour du Pont a couple of years ago, he could pull himself very close to the Spanish riders in front of him, because they are not renowned as the great time trialists of the world. All he needs is around about 2 minutes on riders like Escartin to pull himself onto a position on the podium, and that would be absolutely fantastic.
Well, the last man to go will not be Abraham Alano, but again Jose Maria Jimenez, and that's interesting, and to say the least. 38 seconds splitting him from Alano. Alano, in theory, should ride that time out in the time trial and should win this tour, but you never know. We're watching here Alex Zuller, former champion of the world at time trialing, and trying to get himself back into this race, and what's more, a great winner of this tour last year.
I have to tell you one thing though, Phil, he lost an awful lot of time yesterday as Melcho Mauri comes up the line here to set the new second best time, 47.57. That's a good ride by him. We haven't seen much of him out on the course, and he's probably out there trying to do something for Laurent Jalabert and set some early intermediary times.
Well, so far it's all going the way of Benesto. They've held the lead now for days, in fact since stage 10. And Guidi's been in the lead in the points since stage 13. But the yellow jersey has been Jimenez, Alano, Jimenez, and now we're waiting to see if it goes Alano again. And Roberto Heras, who's had his great moments in this tour and is still riding for a high finish.
Well, strange weather conditions out here as well, as Abraham Alano goes straight off the starting ramp there. A storm just a few moments ago has wetted the roads here and will make 1 or 2 of the corners quite tricky.
Alano needs to watch out for that, but he's underway now, and he's just going to try and repeat the great time trial he had earlier on in this tour.
Laurent Brochard coming in there for 9th best time, but the man really looking to try and keep himself up on the podium. Fernando Escartin, not a great time trialist for him. He is only a few seconds off the time of Jose Maria Jimenez, and he must certainly be thinking about the possibility of winning this year's Tour of Spain.
Well, the Spanish mustn't know who to cheer here. The last 3 riders on the classification, all from Spain, and they're waiting now to see the departure of the man who has got the Amarillo jersey. Here's the rider now, and he must be, you know, after a ride like this, Paul, he's got to go into the upcoming World Championships as one of the favourites to win that title again.
Well, the great thing about Armstrong, which has always been his forte, is his psyche. He's really motivated to go forward from here now to the World Championships, to the time trial, and to the road race as well. And once he sets his mind to something, he nearly always comes up and does it. So he won't be very far off the win when it comes to the World Championships in Valkenburg in 2 weeks' time.
His bottle there tacked onto the end of his saddle, reminiscent of the days when he was a good triathlete, but now, of course, he's an extremely good pro bike rider.
2 times champion of the United States in the triathlon, and that's why he swapped across to ride. But the man starting last here, Jose Maria Jimenez, will be looking for the best time trial performance of his career to try and win this year's Vuelta.
Now you can see how popular that man is, because the big cheers coming from the officials of the Tour as well, as everybody is now on course. Laurent Jalabert, champion of the world time trialist, now trying to do something in this Tour, and he's been an absolutely fabulous winner of it in years gone by.
Marco Serpellini, a young rider on the Brescialat squad, going through one of the intermediary sprints there. But out on the course, you can see Jalabert now wearing the white jersey, a second in the King of the Mountains competition, because that currently is being held by El Shaba, Jose Maria Jimenez and Alex Zuller, coming up to the first intermediary time check with the fastest time.
Yeah, it looks like at the moment, certainly, and it's not going to get weakened, I don't think. At 22 minutes dead is Melchior Mauri, and Alex is going to sneak in there, just 5.5 seconds slower, faster rather. And so he's starting to look as though he might be on the ride here. We haven't seen these boys get there yet, though.
Still waiting for Abraham Olano, riding once again the famous Espana, the bicycle we won't see a lot of in the future. And interestingly enough, you see, Phil, that the leader of the Tour doesn't have a very specialised time trial machine, and that will give the advantage from him to Jose Maria Jimenez, who currently has lost 37 seconds to his team leader.
Well, that is just about the Amarillo jersey as well, because starting the day today, he was 38 seconds behind Olano. So more or less Olano on course now to recapture the Amarillo, and the Banesto boys, who have thrown that jersey around for the best part of 2 weeks, are going to throw it around again, it seems. Well, there we are, that's it, Paul, he's lost it.
He's lost it, it's gone out to 39.40. It's hovering, no, he's still holding his team leader there, Abraham Olano. But certainly once we get on to the flatter part of the course, when Olano can pull up the big stops, then he certainly will eat more into that lead. Armstrong now coming up with a very good time indeed.
This is terrific performance by Armstrong. Zuller is there, best time at 21.54. 9.62 seconds by Lance Armstrong. He's gone through quicker than Alex Zuller. He's the leader on the road. That's unbelievable.
Fantastic performance by Armstrong there, Phil. Really coming to the top again of international cycling. But still we have to wait for the arrival of Abraham Olano, a renowned time trialist. Second at the Olympic Games to Miguel Indurain. Second at the World Championship time trial in Colombia.
So, Lance Armstrong then, trying to get up to the finishing line in best place, and he's taking head-to-head the man that's won this race for the past 2 years. We're looking now at Federico Escartin, who is riding for his life here for a high finish in the Tour, and that's what concerns him. 20 kilometres to go now, and here's the check coming from Laurent Jalabert. Tied to beat Armstrong, and Jalabert is not going to match that or anything like.
Well, in fact, Jalabert going well outside the time of Lance Armstrong, so Armstrong at the moment is looking very much as if he's going to leapfrog over Jalabert in the overall standings. He's 26 seconds behind the time of Lance Armstrong.
Well, Jalabert is the main target of Lance Armstrong, and this could be a super finish for the American, and one he could never have possibly have dreamt of.
Well, I think he was dreaming last night, dreaming of trying to get himself onto the podium in Madrid tomorrow. 45 seconds down for Roberto Heras, and I'm pretty sure soon he'll be feeling the breath of Abraham Olano on his shoulders. He started 2 minutes ahead of Olano, and Olano very shortly will be coming to that early time check.
And here he is, a nice close-up view of all power here. A man who's had to struggle through every mountain stage, I think, but he's limited his losses on every occasion. And now he should make things come good in the time trial. Let's have a look. There's Lance's time. Well, he's going to be quicker than Lance, that's for sure. 21.44 is the time at 20 kilometres covered. Now Abraham Olano sprinting up the hill, 16 seconds quicker than Lance Armstrong. So he really is riding back into that yellow jersey.
He certainly wants to put in a master performance out on the course. The man not renowned as a time trialist, Fernando Escartin, trying to keep as low profile as possible as he can on that machine, but not very comfortable at all. Oscar Camen's in now, coming up to the finish line. A great ride by him, but not good enough really to change the overall standings.
Well, if Lance Armstrong is going to knock Escartin off the top overall positions, he's got to beat him by 2 minutes and 44 seconds in the time trial. I don't think that's possible. 8th place at the moment for Oscar Camazin, and he's 50 seconds off the race lead. This is the situation out on the course at just on 20 kilometres. Olano best time, Armstrong second, Zuller third, Melchior Mauri, we've seen him finish, he was 4th best time here.
Still two riders to come up there to that intermediary time split there. Escartin and the last man on the road, Jose Maria Jimenez. They've got to try and stay in contact with the times being set out on the road by Abraham Olano, and he looks as if he's gone out really in earnest today. You can see how he's got down so low in his profile on the course there. Now is the chance we get to see how close Fernando Escartin is going to be, and he's a long way off the time. More than a minute it will be on the line to that of Abraham Olano.
But still a long way from losing his place to Lance Armstrong here, because Escartin only 58 seconds down. Yes, it's in 9th place, but it's the time that counts now. And 2:44 is what he would have to lose his place to Lance Armstrong. That's not going to happen, I don't think. Escartin is pulling out something special here.
These men really do suffer in a speciality which is not their own. Andrei Zinchenko, the man we've seen an awful lot of the last few days, comes up. That's 11th place for him. Jose Maria Jimenez now looking to try and keep the yellow jersey on his shoulders.
Well, anything over 38 seconds means it won't be, and it's a minute 27, so Jimenez, and no surprises, I don't think, least of all to Jose Maria. He is going to lose that jersey now to Olano. There they are, all through at 19.5. Olano well clear, Armstrong in 2nd place, and that is particularly good for all Americans.
It certainly is. Armstrong riding well, but this man riding like the perfect machine, solid on his bike, right down on the central handlebars there, keeping himself very aerodynamic, and that machine certainly is cutting very much through the wind. Armstrong, though, is doing a great performance, a fairly standard Trek machine for him, made out of light titanium with just one disc wheel in the rear.
Well, a good choice today, because conditions there are not very good, but the roads at last are beginning to dry here, and Armstrong, the days long since gone when Miguel Indurain passed him early on in a time trial on the Tour de France, and Lance couldn't believe the speed of that great Spaniard, but he has improved enormously since then in every department. But to go so well this year for Lance is particularly poignant. Anyway, we're now looking at Abraham Olano here, and he's up against his own teammate head-to-head in Jimenez. Here is Jimenez now racing towards the clouds, where his head most certainly hasn't been on this Vuelta. He's been simply brilliant.
Unbelievable performance too, Phil, by Richard Virenque. He's come over the second half of this course very quickly indeed, and he's caught and passed Beltran.
So Virenque coming up now, the time to beat, 47.47 by Ribera. He delivered a good one. We didn't see him finish, but now a new best time. Virenque's got it at the moment, 47.37, but everybody awaiting the arrival of Alex Zula, because he's been up on Richard throughout the ride.
Abraham Olano now with 1 minute and 40 seconds advantage over his own teammate, Jose Maria Jimenez, the man wearing the Amarillo jersey on this final time trial stage of the Tour of Spain. And it looks now, Phil, as if Abraham Olano is starting to struggle a bit. You can see that movement creeping into the upper part of his body, and he's fighting to keep that big gear going on the slight inclines. On the other side of the screen there, you can see Armstrong too bobbing about a little bit, but certainly those two going a lot faster than Jose Maria Jimenez in the bottom left-hand corner.
And poor old Fernando Escartin on the right, but he is surviving and is hanging on, according to the time checks, to his high place finish overall, which at the moment is 2nd in this event. He was just 6 seconds off Jimenez at the start today, so they're head-to-head for a big finish. Anyway, getting up towards the end now for the whole race here. The road's drying out. This has been a very, very good time trial course, a pure speedman's course down this highway, and that is bound to swing even more in favour of Olano.
Speed and power, that's what Abraham Olano is all about. He's matched this year the training preparation of Miguel Indurain. He thought he could come to the Tour de France with perfect condition. It didn't seem to work. Again, he was always wanting something more when it came to the big climbs, but here it seems as if he's done everything right in the Tour of Spain. He's limited his losses in the mountains, made sure that he didn't lose too much time to the big climbers, even to his own teammate Jose Maria Jimenez, and he's banked it all, as Miguel Indurain did, on the final time trial.
Well, Escartin, by the way, is up. Oh, we might be able to see that now at 26. And no, they're not on there, but Escartin is up on Jimenez, while we're seeing Olano setting the pace. Armstrong only 12 seconds slower, and absolutely riding formidable today. Zula is 25 seconds off the top two. So Armstrong is delivering one terrific surprise today.
Well, if either Escartin or, in fact, Jose Maria Jimenez crack towards the end, as they seem to be doing here, Armstrong could be riding himself into a place on the podium. He started the day in 6th position, 2 minutes 48 seconds behind Maria Jimenez in the overall standings, but Zula is scorching the road out there, Phil, and his times are looking pretty impressive.
Well, the arrival of Alex Zula and they say he's been making time over these last few kilometres. Well, there's the time he's got to beat his own teammate Richard Virenque. He's going to easily do that by a big chunk here. What is it? 1.71 better than Richard Virenque. Alex Zülle has thrown down the gauntlet now for a great victory, and I think only Olano and Lance Armstrong possibly can get near that.
Well, here's Roberto Heras. He's about to have company on his ride in the time trial here, and it's going to be in the shape of Abraham Olano, who's catching him in one of the corners there, and he's going straight by him with such incredible speed. The draft will probably give the little Spaniard a cold.
Well, I tell you what, I think Heras probably surprised that he's kept away from Olano for so long here, because we're running down towards the finish now. So Heras, I think, has done a pretty good ride here to hold him off this far.
He certainly has. He's lost 2 minutes so far. These riders in the time trial here starting 2 minutes apart on this 39-kilometre time trial, not very far outside of Madrid, and everybody now will be thinking about one final stage left to go. But Abraham Olano is thinking about making sure he can get the Amarillo jersey onto his shoulders for the last time and take it down into Madrid tomorrow.
6 kilometres to go, just under 4 miles for Abraham Olano. Still best time on the board at the checkpoints. Best time though with a great last quarter. Alex Zülle came from third best overall. Don't forget, he's now in with the best time, but he has gone so much quicker in the closing kilometres, and Paul has rightly observed it looks as though Olano is not completing this final quarter of the course as well as Zülle might have done.
Well, he's getting out of the saddle there now, trying to keep that big gear going, and it's very difficult indeed. He knows the advantage he has over his teammate Jimenez as well, up to 1:40, and Armstrong coming in with a great time, Phil.
Look at this, Zülle the time to beat now. He was always quicker than Zülle, but he's gone slightly behind him. There's an indication how good Zülle has gone. Armstrong slips down to second. We expected Lance to deliver the first time there.
But another man not doing a great ride in the time trial here is Laurent Jalabert. He's 1.5 minutes down on Abraham Olano. So Olano powering away from Jalabert, but the important thing is Jalabert's bad time is actually going to be good for Lance Armstrong, because he too will find himself leapfrogging over Laurent Jalabert, putting himself at the moment up into around about 4th place in the overall standing, and it could be higher if the two Spaniards behind him, Jimenez and Escartin, don't ride well.
There's a situation at the finish now. Zülle still on top. Armstrong slowed a little in the final quarter. Virenque has dropped to third. Ribera has done a great ride there, still hanging on to 4th place.
There's a champ, the team manager shouting, "Via, via, via, go, go, go." He's trying to encourage his man just a little bit further to push himself high and try and keep the yellow jersey on his shoulder. Jalabert, not a great ride by him. He'll be inside the top 10, but a long side outside the time of Armstrong.
He's not going to like to see this at all. Jalabert will know how he's been going. He's slipping slowly away. Nico Matan there. Well, that's not a great place to be for a man of this man's capability. Anyway, 10th place at the moment for Laurent Jalabert, and we've still got 3 riders out on the course.
Well, there's one of them there. You can see Jose Maria Jimenez riding very well. But I tell you one thing, Phil, Olano is not riding super over the last 4 or 5 kilometres here, because Heras is actually pegging him, and he's not leaving him behind at all. So Abraham Olano must have gone out very quickly, and now I think he's hit the wall and he's just surviving over the last few kilometres.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've forgotten about Heras. We've got 4 riders out on the course. But anyway, look at this now. The cheeky Roberto is having another little dig at Abraham Olano. This is not a good sign for Olano at all, but he's got the time in hand, I think, over Jimenez, and surely he's not going to concede that now. Listen to the crowd here. Well, this has been a great tour.
They know he's doing a great ride here, but he's not doing enough, I don't think, to win the stage here from Alex Zülle, because he's slowing down over the last few kilometres. Heras keeps coming back at him, nudging him a little bit, saying, "You're supposed to be the time trialist, but you can't get rid of me, son."
Well, but he's sprinting towards the finish here now, and he's shooting along here. Abraham Olano, a king of the time trial for sure, runner-up in the World Championship to Miguel Indurain a couple of years back, but I think he's not going to get there in time to beat Alex Zülle now. We've still got the head-on shot, and here it comes. He'll come swinging off that bend. The time is only 6 seconds to the line. I think he's going to be pipped by a second or 2 here. Abraham Olano, who was the leader, has come up to the line. 1 second is the difference. He is down to second place.
Unbelievable. That was all done over the last 4 or 5 kilometres. He really lost it. He pushed himself very hard in the first half of this time trial, and I think he blew a little bit towards the end, because if a man like Heras can keep coming back at him, then obviously Abraham Olano was not riding at 100%, but I think he may well have done enough to pull the Amarillo jersey back onto his shoulders after relinquishing it to his teammate yesterday. We now just have to wait for Escartin to come in, as well as Jose Maria Jimenez.
Jimenez, I think, knows that his deficit now is simply too much on Abraham Olano. He hasn't really gathered much speed over this last quarter either. The man that's done that is Alex Zula, who is going to be the winner now for sure, because these guys aren't going to get close. Here comes Fernando Escartin. I think I called him Federico before, but it doesn't matter. He's coming in now, and he's going to hopefully retain his second place overall in the Vuelta for the big day out tomorrow. Zula still top of the leaderboard, and way off it now is Escartin. But this is a personal battle, really, with the other riders lower down the classification to hang on to that second place. And this should be good enough for him. He keeps his nice style all the way to the line. He's dropped to 13th, but he rivals Uwe Peschel. That's not a bad man to rival. There's the situation then, and we've still got Jimenez to finish. Zula 1 second up on Alano, and a mere 8 on Lance Armstrong. Fantastic for Lance, that.
Unbelievable performance by him. The last man on the road now, the yellow jersey, Amarillo of the Vuelta a Espana, on the shoulders of Jose Maria Jimenez. I think that skin suit's just a little bit too short for him there, because there's a gap of white skin at the top of his thigh. But he knows now. The team manager shouting at him behind, Venga, Venga, Venga. Just a few kilometres left to go. Keep pushing it. Keep the pressure on, because you can still make yourself keep on the top level of the podium. And he's looking for third place, because Armstrong has done such a great ride. He may steal it from the Spaniard.
Yeah, and so is Escartin as well. He's going to beat Jimenez to the line here. And so I think it's a tumble from first to third rather than a 1-2 for Benesto, but the time will tell us. Here he comes, and already you see he's way down the list now, a lot further down, almost double the pace from Escartin. The maillot jaune, the yellow jersey, the Amarillo jersey, over the line. 2.51 minutes is the difference there. So the result, Zula gets the stage win, Alano second, Armstrong a brilliant third there. Overall, it's Alano now, Escartin, and Jose Maria Jimenez is down to third. Lance Armstrong is up into fourth place. Laurent Jalabert goes down into fifth, and Heras also loses a little bit of ground. Absolutely brilliant riding though by Armstrong. He's just off a podium place, and in theory nothing should change on the last stage. There though, a relieved big smile from the man from Switzerland. The winner for the past 2 years is now the winner of a very, very prestigious time trial here, and he all came good in the last few kilometres. And it's back in yellow now for Abraham Alano. He knows now that he is going to win this Tour of Spain. And all that remains, 163 kilometres, barely 100 miles, a circuit around Madrid to complete the 3,800 kilometres. And this has been a brilliant bike race this year. We have seen different leaders from start to finish. Zeberg for a couple of days, then Jalabert for a day, Guidi for 2 days, Jimenez for 3 days, then Alano for a week and a half, then Jimenez for a day, and now Alano to finish it off on this final weekend. And not surprisingly, the riders, as always, in great spirits.
Certainly, what a great finish here. The circuit race around the centre of Madrid. And as we get closer to the finish, you can see that the teams of the sprinters taking a much greater interest in the result here. Last year it went to Max van Heeswijk, now riding for the Rabobank squad, who leapt away in the final turn and surprised all of the sprinters and hung on to win by a couple of lengths.
And we haven't seen too much of Van Heeswijk. He's still in the race, by the way, but we haven't seen anything of him the whole time. This man has had a great tour though, Oscar Kammerzind, and it looks like he's going to play the bait for everybody else to chase down now, the former champion of Switzerland, as he starts the attacks for the win.
4 kilometres left to go to the finish. A good move by him, very similar to the move made by Max van Heeswijk last year. And you know, the speed in the main field, Phil, it is very difficult for a lone man to get out off the front and survive.
But you've always got to try, because one day somebody will succeed. But now the sprinters, what's left of them, by the way, and there aren't many left in this race. Watch out for Marcel Vusto, because he's still here. Blylavens has gone now. Guidi, who's going to run out the points winner of this race, he's still in there somewhere as we come to line. Zeberg! Marcus Zeberg! The man that won stage one has now taken the last stage. What a way to top and tail your tour. And the rider in second place was Van Heeswijk. Well, there you are, and another great trophy as well. Let's run through the classifications then. Zeberg getting the victory ahead of Van Heeswijk. Raimondi is there in third place. Of the other classifications, the King of the Mountains, a clear victory for Jimenez. He's been a star of this tour, to say the least. Jalabert taking second, and Escartin there in third place. Heras getting getting the 4th place slot. In the other event, which is the King of the Sprints, then a victory here for the Brasiliat rider, and that is Gianluca Raimondi. Fabrizio Guidi taking 2nd, and Rubira getting the 3rd place finish there. And that's what we usually call the hotspot sprint competition. Jalabert in the frame as well. In the points jersey, Fabrizio Guidi getting the victory here for Polti. He led it for the last week and a bit of the Tour. Jalabert 2nd, Jimenez 3rd, Marcel Wust with a couple of stage wins there, getting in 4th place. No doubt though who the winner was. Abraham Olano now gets a big win on the record books, and Spain have got themselves a new star. A minute 23 ahead of Escartin, the Spanish taking top 3 places, Lance Armstrong getting 4th. I hope you've enjoyed the coverage of this. Paul Sherwin and I certainly have, bringing it to you.